Fadel Abdul Ghany, who's joined us. As I said earlier, he is an analyst and from Syrian Network for Human Rights. Thank you, Mr. Ghany, for being with us. We were talking about President Erdogan's ultimatum to Damascus to pull forces back to the previous line and to stop the offensive on Idlib. What is your reading of the situation?
Actually, we need to step back and check who's putting us in this situation. Actually, this is all a Sitana process and Sochi conference and all of that, and this was expected actually. So based on that,
I want some clarity. What was expected? The Syrian advance or President Erdogan?
Yeah,
the Syrian advance.
Syrian advance. Okay. Yeah, the Syrian and the Russian advance, seizing Marathon, all of that are included in the Sochi agreement. So it's very obvious. So that we keep criticizing this process actually, and we requested and demanding several times from the Turks to sustain or to drop away from this process, which will lead to nothing actually. The Russian cannot be trusted, and the Iranian as well. Who's fighting now in the Aleppo front line? It's Iranian militia. And furthermore, the Turks will hold the consequences and the responsibility for the displaced, the IDP people, and those displaced people is terrifying and suffered from several.
Let me interject and ask you a question. I want some clarification on what you said about the Russians and the Iranians cannot be trusted. What exactly do you mean by that?
Of course, I mean clearly that engage with Iran and Russia in process that will lead to similar disaster situation. To be very frank and clear, cannot be trusted. That means that the Russian keep violated all of the UN resolution, keep violated even agreement. The Russian be part of it. I want to remind you and our dear audience about the agreement which is take place in Cairo, directly with the Russian government, with Jaish al-Islam and Faylaq al-Rahman in Al-Ghouta. What happened after that? Russian forces burned and destroyed almost all of Al-Ghouta. So we experienced the Russian words and the Russian agreements before in Ghouta, in Dar'a, in Homs, and even at the beginning of the Russian engage in Syria, which is
Since I'm running out of time, Ghany, let me ask you a question and a quick response to that. What you're saying essentially is that President Erdogan should withdraw this ultimatum and allow the Syrian forces to take over Idlib. Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying that at this moment it's very much late. And further steps need to be acted in this regard. First of all, I think that we need to engage further states like the United States and the European government in this regard, in the Idlib dilemma and the IDP. We are talking about 3.5 million. So this should draw the attention of the whole international community. The Turks alone cannot stood against the Iranian and the Russian, because those are one alliance beside the Assad regime, and the Turks are alone. So that we criticize this path, and the Turks cannot afford this path alone, and we need to. So that we recommended the Turks to go back to Geneva process, which is held by several international community and by the UN as well.
Okay.
And this.
Right. I get your point. Thank you. Thank you so much. That was Fadel Abdul